Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
Miss Oswald, dark hair, highly unpredictable, surprisingly round face.
And I'm Victoria Wheeler. I'm New Who.
Mr. Pink was looking at you. Well, that explains why you're lost.
And I want to say to start, I'm sorry if I sound a little like Froggy from the Little Rascals, but I'm on COVID round 2. I've got a rerun going. It's not so bad that I can't record. It's just meaning that my wife has left me and taken the dogs, and I'm being nursed by 2 belligerent cats. But I'm doing good. But Vic's about to go on a little vacation, and we wanted to get this one in. So we are back in Capaldi land, which was nice. It was nice to watch a Peter Capaldi Doctor Who. I had not watched one in a long time. But this episode is, let me get to it because I can never remember this one, folks. It's terrible. In the Forest of the Night. Mm-hmm. And it is from season 8. All right. I want to say that I'm not a fan of season 8. You probably heard me complaining the whole time we're covering. There are episodes in season 8 I like. There is an episode in season 8 I despise with every fiber of my being. It's not I don't despise it. It's just not. It is probably one of my least favorite Doctor Who. And this is one I bash on the level of Kill the Moon. This time, I found aspects of it that I got what they were going for, and I enjoyed some of it overall. I still think it needs some tightening up and some trims, and maybe, me and the, it's that thing, how would I fix it? There's some stuff that,
Yeah, I think there was some direction. I mean, there's definitely some gaps in the writing, but I think also they were limited. They had some really tight shots. They must have been budget limited, because the trees and the wolf and there was a bunch of stuff in here that must have cost some money, and so there were some other places where they had some oddly tight shots, like when the Nelson column comes down and they have to dive out of the way. It's a seriously tight shot for their dive.
There's really a lot of like old school 3-camera shots of upper torsos. There's a lot of face acting.
Yeah.
Where you're putting the head
and
in
I think
box.
I think that was driven by the effects, right? That they had only a couple of trees, right? Like that they were actually acting near.
Yeah. It's like, how do you get the same shot with using the same 3 trees?
Yeah, that's what it felt like a little bit. And I think that's the type of thing that can be forgiven if the story doesn't sort of take you out of it. And I think that's what happened. It does a little bit. It does a little bit. What I found were character moments that were not part of the main story that I had not caught before. Yeah.
There is some dialogue between Danny and Clara, where she's like, "Don't you want to go travel?" He's calling her out because you've been hanging out with the doctor and you told me you weren't. And he's not really mad. He's like, I understand it. He's being understanding and not wanting to fight. And she goes, "Don't you want to see these amazing things?" And he goes, "I've been to war." And I think it's a great line. And growing up around soldiers, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when she goes, "Don't you want to see this and that and this?" And he goes, "I've been to war, and I barely tried to survive. Now I just want to see what's in front of me better."
Mm-hmm.
See, I want to see what... And you see him, and throughout the... and it's throwaway dialogue where he's interacting with the kids. And he's just protecting the children, which is his duty.
Yeah, it's not throwaway dialogue. It's very intense.
It is, but I think the other times I've watched it, I blew it off.
Yeah.
And this time really hit me this time that this is very subtly done, and we're supposed to observe it.
Yeah.
They're not throwing it in your face.
Right, but this is we keep having this theme over these years that we've been increasingly in crisis as a world and as a country, and that art hits differently, and this role as this ability of Danny's to focus on what his job is, versus giving in to I want to save the world, is a dynamic going on in my relationship right now, because we're recording this a week plus after the Dobbs v. Jackson decision came down in the United States, and we're seeing the fallout from it already as states' trigger laws have kicked in, and the stories are already horrific and building. And my family is uniquely poised to help. I mean, we have the skill set to help the LGBT community, right? And this is our area of expertise, and we're both lawyers, and we are. My wife is spearheading efforts to help people protect themselves and their families should marriage recognition disappear, as it's predicted to. And so we are. So my wife is clued into every change and everything that's happening and all of the news feeds and everything, and keeps coming upstairs with, I mean, she's always been sort of a Chicken Little, that the sky is falling, and right, but this is worse than anything she's ever predicted. So it's that chicken. Listen, my sister had a dog at one point who liked to bark at the squirrels, and one time he looked up into a tree and saw a squirrel, or chased a squirrel up a tree, and he looked up at it and barked, and the squirrel got I don't know, displaced somehow. The bark scared it or something, and the squirrel fell down and broke its neck right in front of him. And so that dog just, for the rest of its life, looked up at the sky and barked, believing that a squirrel was going to fall out of the sky. Right? I mean, it's like, here it is, and you do X and Y happens, and so now there's a correlation in your mind. And this is what has happened to my wife, is that she's been walking around saying the sky has fallen for as long as I've known her, and the sky just fell. Right?
Yeah.
She's like, whoa. So she's, this time, and she's often right about various things, but this time she's right, and it's worse even than she had said. And so, but she's just flailing, trying to set things up, working with national organizations, and like they're gonna fix this, right? They're gonna fix it as best they can. And she's working on Band-Aids right now, and they'll work. Eventually, they'll get the surgery, right? But we also have a 14-year-old daughter, and I've got to figure out how to protect her and her friends, and right, there's and protecting her means helping her grow up with a healthy attitude about the world around her, as well as being careful and being smart and being right, like, so you can't scare her to death either. And so right now, the relationship portrayed between Danny and Clara is the relationship that's going on in my house right now. Because I'm like, yes, I would love to get into an intellectual discussion about all of this stuff and try and figure it out, right? And work alongside you and do all this stuff. But my main job right now is a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And I've got to keep her safe. And in order to keep her safe, it means that I have to stay balanced, right? In order to keep her balanced and healthy moving forward, I have to stay balanced. And in order to stay balanced, I can't get lost in the woods and the weeds of all of this legal stuff, because it's actually terrifying. And so we're having that very discussion in our house right now. And I describe myself as being like a pendulum, right? That there is a weight that always brings me back to center. And I saw that in Danny. Like, what's the job, right? And she says he would never leave these children, not while, and foreshadowing, not while he's still alive, right?
Yeah, and like that foreshadowing, I had never caught it that heavily until we got to this time. I like Sam Anderson. He is a very good actor. He's doing a lot with what he's given, and he's a very subtle actor, which I like. I like an actor who's just really just there and in the moment, and that's what he does. And my problems with maybe their relationship has been actor chemistry, which is something you can't control.
Right.
But
no, and the way the character is written as well. I mean, there's a couple of things that haven't. I don't know. His character's a little one-dimensional. I mean, I think, and but soldiers are less one-dimensional than this.
Yeah.
I think they want him to say, this is a simple guy, right? And nobody's quite that simple.
I think they also are trying not to show him having any post-traumatic stress. They don't want to. That's a story. That's a trope. That's a trope, and it becomes a story. You have to tell that story, and there's no reason. You don't really need to do it, because what they try to do, and I don't know if it's successful. I see it as successful, but I grew up around those people. You know what I mean? So I see that he does have it, and I'm seeing how he, in a very zen way, with a lot of soldiers do, handle it. They take on responsibility as a carer and a fixer, because they can't fix themselves. So they're going to try to make their little pocket of the world as safe and as calm for themselves and those around him, because that's the only control they have.
Right.
Because all the shit they've seen
my life, while I was never a soldier, I had my own version of frontline work that I did. And to me, it's similar in that I watched young men die, right? And there's something so nonsensical about that. There's something so unnatural about that, that it shakes you, and it reminds you to live each day, right? And to find what grounds you and find what's important to you and let that lead you. And so I think my reaction is similar to that. Like, I've seen some shit, right? And so I'm gonna keep me and mine safe, right? And I mean, I think that's who Danny is. But it would be a trope if they did the PTSD thing, and that's an important thing to examine. But the other trope that this story does, I think, particularly well, is that trauma triggers superpowers.
Oh, with with Maeve, yeah.
And I think they do it well. And this isn't just a television thing, although it's used frequently in television and comic books, right? This is, you experience an event or a trauma or a loss, and it triggers it triggers abilities inside of you.
Heightened awarenesses.
Heightened awarenesses, and that is it's ancient. Right, that the only learned people who were writing anything down were normally clergy, right, monks, things like that in the Middle Ages. But so what we have are stories of people, frequently nuns, right, or young girls who had visions. I mean, think Joan of Arc, right? But there are many miracles that happened around young women, girls who experienced trauma, who then had sort of these heightened perceptions and started to hear voices and started to hear, right? And in today's world, we now understand that trauma can trigger psychosis.
Yes.
Right. And so but the explanation for them in the Middle Ages and things that has come down through history has been, that they were miracles, or that they were essentially superpowers. And so it's an ancient trope. It's not just a TV trope. But I think they did it well, and setting it in that sort of idea of a fairy tale, and Maeve, this little girl who walks up to the TARDIS and knocks on the door, it's like, It's like when Tim Drake walked into the Batcave,
And they're
right?
like, and Batman's like, "How did you do it?" He goes, "It wasn't that hard."
Yeah, exactly. And she's wearing a little red jacket, and
She's
right,
wonderful.
and
The young lady
so
is
the actors,
wonderful.
yeah,
All the
yeah,
kids in this are really, really
are
good.
pretty good. Yeah, none of them have really. She's worked a little bit. Her name is Abigail Ames, and she's worked a little bit. The other kids, Bradley, Samson, Bradley, and Ruby, haven't worked as much. Ruby's pretty good.
They know they got their beats. Those three other kids, man, they hit really good beats. The script is, I like the writing for the children a great deal.
The Ruby voiced. I mean, I say she hasn't worked much. Ruby is the voice of Peppa Pig, and
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Shit, she doesn't have to work later in life, does she?
Ever again, I know. But I tell you what, she's that character and that set of books is great, right? Mm-hmm. They're great, and my wife liked watching those alongside the toddler,
really?
Years ago. So that's what she's been doing.
But
she is.
I
really
love
good.
her character because she's that kid that doesn't see anything other than
right.
1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah, no. But she's entitled, right? Like, move on, right? Right?
I love it.
So
Ask somebody the thing about where's X. It's right there.
Yeah. Find X.
It's right there.
How do
on
we
the
find
board.
X?
You just wrote it.
It's at the top of the screen. Right? What's wrong with you? No, it is good, and I
They made it worthwhile on this viewing because I sat there, in a fever dream,
right.
laughing, and I thought, whenever we come back to Peter Capaldi I think I love him so much as an actor. I just love everything he does, and I forget how good. I think his time as Doctor was so quick in some ways for me. It was Matt, my favorite, and then Jodie. That I forget how good he is. He is so good with the young woman playing Maeve. He's so good with
Maeve with a V.
It's Maeve. Is so good. He is such a great actor that I loved him, and I loved his, and him and Gemma Coleman are so good together, I think. And it just it's a wonderful performance, and it lifted the dodgy CGI wolves.
Yeah, it absolutely
does. I enjoyed it more. It is like Kill the Moon. The thing that I say I love about Doctor, for some reason, there are two stories where my suspension of disbelief goes kind of away. I kind of listen more closely this one, what the planet has defense mechanisms to natural disasters that we
I mean it's not even to natural disasters, it's to what we're doing to it. I mean, I think viruses are one of the planet's mechanisms.
No.
Right? The virus that your body's carrying right now
is the planet trying to thin the fucking herd.
It is.
Hold on a second.
It's working.
But I liked it, and I liked, overall, I enjoyed this episode because of when I first watched season 8, I did enjoy it as much as I had previous seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I have enjoyed Modern Who so much, whether it be what I consider great or very good or just above average, because it's a lot. You're not going to have, it's not always going to be great. I'm a Russell Davies fan. I don't think every Russell Davies era episode is great.
Right.
I'm a huge Moffat fan, and I will be the first to admit he swings for the fences using a toothpick.
Sometimes he hits.
Sometimes he hits. Sometimes it's a miss. So, but this one was I enjoyed this one a great deal more. It was very entertaining, and I think for as down and dirty as this was a production, I think they pull it off for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been one of my favorites, but it didn't bug me because I don't mind that this is attempting to be a fairy tale. I also love Capaldi, and whatever he touches is so good. And
imagine how bad this would be if it wasn't him.
Well, I mean, he's one of my favorite doctors. I've come down to a list that is 10, 2, 7, 12, and 13, right? That they're just, those are the ones that I relate to, and I see the through line in all of them. I don't know that I can explain it, or that anybody else would see the same through line
but
that
you don't
I
have
do.
to. I mean, it's like,
But I love the crotchety doctor.
Yeah.
I love the, it doesn't matter how, even as old as I am, life's too short to watch Les Miserables, right? Like,
I thought of
I
you.
wanted to stand up and applaud. I know.
I thought of you. I thought of you at that moment. I went, that's Victoria.
I know. Right. Lengthy dental work, right? But if it's your thing, it's your thing. Knock yourself out. Right. Knock yourself out. But I love that aspect of him. That there is definitely there's commonalities in my personality to the 12th Doctor, and so but he's got great lines and he gets to deliver them, right? And that's where the synergy with Moffat really works.
Kind of they didn't, they felt him out about playing the part, and I don't think he had to audition. He just, you don't audition him. You really don't.
Well, yeah, why would you? Yeah.
He doesn't have to.
Why would you?
You don't need to. He's never failed. I would like to see. I've watched bits of In the Loop. And it is a masterful performance of a totally unlikable human being, and the use of profanity as music is wonderful. I do will in the movie that won,
and truly Glaswegian, right? That's what it is that there's simply an art to it. And I think there are people in some areas do it better than others. There's Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
The best example is in the movie spin-off to In the Loop, which won an Academy Award for screenplay.
Not in the Loop. It's the thick of it.
In the thick of it. The movie is In the Loop.
In.
The movie is called In the Loop. And it's him and James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
So you got a guy from Jersey and a Glaswegian.
Yeah.
Just going at each other. Nose to nose, and Gandolfini's playing an American general, and it's just the two of them, and it's only a little scene, but it's just like, it's so good. But but Capaldi lifts his stuff up. I will say, because his next two seasons, I think are great, especially the last one. I mean, the last one is probably my second favorite season of New Who. The first being 5. And 4 is in there because 4 is almost flawless. I mean, I enjoy it. It was fun. There was a lot. It was funner than I had seen it. It is, and it's the last one before the big 2-part finale, which we will discuss next time around. Which there will be a lot to talk about. But it does set that up nicely. And I forgot the little Missy moment in this, and it's just, she's so good. She barely.
Well, that's all she has in this
but
whole
it's still,
season is these little windows.
And they're just perfect.
This episode brought to you by COVID.
Yes, sorry. And I got another podcast to record in a little while after we hang up. But it's keeping me from being stir crazy because, folks, I am trapped in the house with just me and the cats. The wife and the dogs have abandoned me for good reason. My wife was out of town when I caught this, and she's only coming in to drop off food and make sure I haven't died. But it's just, thank God I'm jabbed. I wish I have not gotten my 4th jab, and I will probably do that in a week or 2.
I really will.
All right. Well, folks, you can find us. Maybe Vic's going to go take a little break because she's got fun stuff to do. I have some guests lined up. I've recorded an episode. The episode I just dropped with Jason from Doctor Who Literature and Trap 1. I have some guys coming on to talk Matt Smith. And Mark from Trap 1 will be back to talk comic books, to fill the gaps while Vic has some takeaway fun. And then me and Vic are actually going to be in the same room. in a few weeks.
In August,
First time I've been able to go to Maryland since my
COVID.
my wedding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of stuff just came into play, and I didn't want to go to visit anybody because I work in a hospital, and
Yep.
All right, but until then, you can find us on the interwebs at Gallifrey's MW Pod. Reach out, Vic will take Vic up on her conversation. She's a smart lady. But until then, be kind, everybody. It's important nowadays. Look after each other.
Mm-hmm.
And until we see you and until we see you again, we look for and And we hope to see you somewhere in time or